So I've now finished my tacos. I've finished my beer. I'm back inside because it's hot out there. But I make sure, since I'm stuck in the house all day long, I try to get outside and at least get fresh air, even if it is like sitting in a steamer oven or something like that. So now I'm inside and it's a little bit cooler. Whew. And we can talk about the third thing that you gotta know about, which is the Cave of Wonders in the back. And you gotta know how I came by the name of Cave of Wonders, because I was at church and I go to the Unitarian Universalist Church, so it's fine, they love me there. And I tend to talk about slightly inappropriate subjects loudly in public at coffee hour, because that is just who I am. And like I said, it's okay because they love me, but my voice carries. But I was talking to another friend and she was talking about how she recently got a menstrual cup, and it was talking about the fornix of the vagina, and she did never heard of the fornix, and I had just learned some interesting names for the entrance of the vagina. There's the vestibule and some other things. And so we were like, there are parts to the vagina that we don't know about. And to be clear, I'm talking about vagina like the tube that is the vagina, not the vulva, the pretty flower external part, but like the internal part. And yes, I think it's pretty. And so we're like, oh, there's all these parts of the vagina. Well, what's the Cave of Wonders in the back? What's that really awesome spot that you can get to and it feels so good? And I actually started going around the crowd going, who knows, who here is an OBGYN? There's got to be an OBGYN here. And I finally tracked her down. They told me so-and-so, and I went and I tracked her down. And I was like, what's the name of that? And she's like, the cervical vaginal junction or something to that effect. And I'm like, well, I'm going to just keep calling it the Cave of Wonders, because that is a way better name than something all medical jargony. But anyway... Getting to the Cave of Wonders in the back is actually not about just running up in there. Again, with everything else we've talked about, it's about arousal. And so I used to think of the cervix as being like the end of the vagina, like you're going along and then you boop, hit the end, bump, bump, bump. No, don't think of it that way. My sister gave me, when you're having sex with a penis and it bangs into that, she always called it stubbing a toe. And yes, ouch, that definitely hurts, like you stubbed a toe. But it is not the end of the vagina. The cervix actually is, think of it more as the part of the uterus that hangs down into the vagina. And so, it's kind of this nice little... it kind of feels like the tip of your nose, and it's got some shape, and it's got a little hole in the middle, so that's why I kind of make this finger shape to make the cervix, and so it's kind of hanging down in the vagina. But it's not that the vagina ends, it's actually kind of hanging down a little bit to the side, and most women's cervix doesn't point straight down. Mine happens to, so I couldn't tell you exactly which direction it usually points, although it does point different directions for different women. Sometimes it points to the back, sometimes it points to the front. I don't know which way is more often, but mine points straight down. And when a woman gets excited and gets aroused, the cervix moves. The uterus itself, not just the cervix, because the cervix is part of the uterus. Think of this as the cervix, think of this whole thing as the uterus. The uterus goes whoop, and pulls up out of the vagina and creates more space. And when it creates more space, it opens up that wonderful Cave of Wonders in the back, so that then when you're coming in there, maybe don't always use your fist, but for demonstration purposes, when you're going in there, you can kind of bypass that cervix because the uterus is pulled up, and you can kind of go on back into the really fun stuff where you're hitting a whole bunch of really awesome nerve endings. Those are the orgasms. For me, at least, you're like, oh, yes, and then it goes, oh, yeah. Like, it drops because it's that deep, awesome, oh, yeah, That's the Cave of Wonders sound. For me. Maybe for you. It's the Cave of Wonders sound. And the way that the cervix does that, the way that the uterus actually pulls up out of the vagina, is really interesting to me, because everything's connected, and nobody tells you this piece, but everything's connected. So when a woman gets aroused, there are actually, here's your cervix, here's your uterus hanging out. there are actually two ligaments, round ligaments, which means that they're not really ligaments. They're fake ligaments made out of muscle tissue. I don't know why they name these things the way they do, but they're called round ligaments, and they come off more of the top of the uterus, and they go down, and they actually go over the pubic bone and go down and connect to the muscles around the entrance to the vagina. So when everything's getting really happy, juicy, excited, which that's what we want, happy, juicy, excited, it causes the muscles to contract. They get more muscle tension because they're excited. And that means that those round ligaments that go from the vagina over the top of the pubic bone, the exterior of the pubic bone, up to the uterus and connect to the uterus. And so they contract and they pull the uterus up and out of the way. And so it creates this complete circuit, and it pulls that uterus up. And so in order to get to the Cave of Wonders, everything else has to be juicy. You have to be nice and puffy in those bulbs of the clitoris. You have to be nice and excited. Everything moves, everything changes. And when you have those orgasms, like the good orgasm, and the uterus starts pulsing, one of the things that it's doing, it's not just, like this. It's actually bobbing up and down. It dances. It goes like this because those round ligaments that are attached to it kind of pull it around, and it moves. So that's how we get to the Cave of Wonders in the back. You got to be extra excited. You got to be extra puffy and aroused. And the arousal itself pulls the uterus up out of the vagina and gets it out of the way of the really good banging you're about to have.